What up, y'all? Welcome to the latest edition, episode 3 of That Time in Hip Hop, a podcast about the history, the nostalgia, and more importantly, the preservation of hip hop music and culture. I am your host, Vegas of Hip Hop Now Podcast. I got my co-host, the homie Tone from IntoTheDome.com. What's good, player?
Everything is good. And today I have Kool-Aid. See?
Kool-Aid. You got
It's
Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid.
I got water. We got the family at the water.
All right.
Also, we trying a couple of things, trying to experiment, make the podcast a little bit more. The content is going to be what it is. Still going to get history and perspectives on different things in hip hop. But as far as the technical side, we working our way into a little groove. If you watch the pilot episode till now, you could obviously see we tweaking here and there, and it'll continue to happen as we go along. But we need you to subscribe, hit that notification bell, because that's when you know that we've posted a new episode. And check out the channel for more content, because we're going to keep this coming every week, man. And speaking of this week, Tone, man, it's April. We at least here in the New York, Jersey area, we starting to get a little bit of sunshine, a little bit warm, not really warm, but a little bit, but it makes me think back to, certain times where spring was actually here. You know what I'm saying? Around but what happened this week in hip hop,
Yeah, so this week in hip hop, I went back to 2002 when April 26th, that is, 50 Cent dropped the compilation album Guess Who's Back. And it's funny because a lot of casual fans don't really understand that by the time Get Rich had came out, he had Power of the Dollar that was shelved on Columbia Records, and he had so many other mixtapes. And then Guess Who's Back came out on Full Clips record label, independent joint. Had a lot of dope songs that was pretty much being bootlegged at the time because Columbia ended up scrapping, not necessarily scrapping, but shelving Power of the Dollar, which is 50 Cent's debut album, because he got shot. They got scared about what was going on with 50 Cent at the time. And there were also rumors that the Supreme Team, street guys in Queens, had blacklisted 50 Cent. So a lot of labels wouldn't work with him, but unfortunately at the time, for hip hop fans, we were deprived of some really dope music from this guy, man. So Guess Who's Back, man, was some of his best songs. A few tracks ended up on Get Rich, and he was killing it with freestyles at the time. And it was just a good moment, man, for 50 Cent. And for casual fans, man, go back and check out Guess Who's Back, because you'll be pleasantly surprised at 50 Cent's beats, his wordplay. And man, I tell you what, if he wasn't blacklisted, that Power of the Dollar would have actually been a pretty amazing debut.
Yeah, man, it was one of those situations where, back then when albums got leaked, you know what I'm saying? In his case, him getting shot and all that was a different situation. But the simple fact that the album got leaked, record labels just threw it on the shelf and said, make more, and it just was something that I don't believe they ever really put out. Or I don't know if they sold it to them or whatever. They may have kept those, as far as I know. But 50 was a hustler, man. And like you said, between the mixtapes and, everything, well, actually everybody having Power of the Dollar, even though it wasn't released, he had a huge momentum before his actual debut, Get Rich or Die Trying. And Guess Who's Back was kind of like, I kind of compare it to Mr. C's mixtape, Best of Biggie, because back before Ready to Die came out, Big had a lot of unreleased records, and he had a lot of guest features. And Mr. C, DJ Mr. C of Big Daddy Kane fame, made this mixtape prior to Biggie coming out. That was a Best of Biggie. You talking about a dude who has a debut and he has a best of coming. and everybody had it, man. It was like a dope primer for the Ready to Die album, and that's what Guess Who's Back was. It was kind of like, we got all these mixtape joints, we got Power of the Dollar, but we see he with Dr. Dre now, and Guess Who's Back was kind of like getting that best of a dude who's already been grinding before he goes mainstream or whatever. So yeah, man, that's a dope joint that people need to go back and check out, or especially if you never heard it before. You may feel like it's trash because honestly, 50 never really changed his flow. So if you heard too much 50, it may be difficult to go back. For some people, for me personally, especially because I lived it and Tone lived it, that was the prime 50 Cent. When he was
Yeah, let
on
me say
fire.
that. Let me say this too.
Yeah.
So I'm in North Carolina, so a lot of cats didn't hear a lot of the material that was on Guess Who's Back.
Mm.
And that's just kind of the way it was. I mean, a lot of people down here who are real hip hop fans might have heard a few tracks and heard How to Rob. People knew about How to Rob, but a lot of people were introduced to 50 like right at Get Rich or Die Trying, just people that I knew from around the way. But I had Power of the Dollar, and I had Guess Who's Back, the doo-wop freestyles, the joints when he was freestyling with Noriega and some of the guys like that. I had all of that, so I was turning people on to 50 Cent a year or two before Get Rich. It came out, he had some tracks on Into Deep soundtrack from like 99, 2000. He was touring on a Nostradamus tour. So on his first album that was shelved, he had like 2 tracks with Nas and the Bravehearts, and so he was out there. Also, when he had this track in there called "Be a Gentleman," he was taking shots at Jay-Z, and Jay-Z turned around on Volume 3 and said, "I'm about a dollar. Who the F is 50 Cent?" You know what I'm saying? So people like, "Who's 50 Cent?" Well, he was already on the radar for you guys up in New York in the streets already, but for us down here in North Carolina, a lot of people were like, well, who is this dude 50 Cent? You know what I'm saying? So, it was a big moment, man. And just real quick, too, he had his 2 songs, Your Life on the Line and You're Not Like Me, that both ended up being on Get Rich. And just real quick, if I can recite this line real quick, and hopefully I can get this right. He said, man, I've been to the pearly gates, they sent me back. Good, die young, I'm not eligible for that. I shot niggas, I've been shot, so crack in the street. My attitude is gangster, so I stay in some beef. You want to get acquainted with me? You want to know me? For 3-point range with the Glock, I shoot better than Kobe. And I was like, oh, like he had a lot of little witty joints, man. And I was like, yeah, man, just real talk. Just recommending that for you guys, man, listeners out there, man. Check out that Guess Who's Back by 50 Cent, released in 2002. Of course, that led right on up to Get Rich, and the rest is history, man. So just check that out. Real dope project, man. Real talk.
Yeah, really dope, man. And if you're watching this podcast for the first time again, we want you to contribute to the conversation, which means go in the comment section, tell us your thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Were you around when that 50 joint Guess Who's Back dropped? How'd you feel about it? Are you a 50 Cent fan? Are you still a fan? How you feel about him today? You know what I'm saying? Is he like one of the best trolls on the internet? I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man, where it's dope to go back. Like, too many times in hip hop, we try to move on to what's hot next, and we forget about the stuff that we liked from the yesteryear. There's nothing wrong with going back. That's the whole point of this podcast: preserving dope hip hop from every angle that you could think of. And speaking of dope, and I mean that in both senses of the word, and Kanye West. This episode is about Kanye West, but we want to talk about older Kanye, Kanye from the past. But if you've been paying attention, if you're living in the now, people from the future, we already know, you already know shit. But he's just been he's been on a roll on social media. And let me just say this, because I don't know if this, before we get into the meat of the topic, but I don't know if people noticed this about Kanye. I noticed it by maybe the third album. I noticed the pattern with him. When he has an album coming out, he will say and do almost anything to make sure the world is paying attention to him. It's kind of a bait. He does it with every album. He
Every time.
makes himself the conversation every time before it comes out so that you're paying attention to him. So when he drops the music, you're going to check it out, whether you like him or not. You're going to see what it's about. You're going to click play on a video or whatever. And he's doing the same thing now, and people are just falling in the loop every time. The boy is a genius in that regard because everybody falls for it every time. But we ain't here to talk about this new Kanye. We here to talk about Through the Wire Kanye, and homie Tone got all the details. Let's get into it, man.
Well, yeah, it's funny because, like you said, right now social media is going crazy, and unfortunately for newer fans, they don't actually understand Kanye's grind and struggle to get to this point right now. So this
Yeah.
time in hip hop that I want to talk about is the first time I heard the track Through the Wire. During that time, that year, 50 Cent was dominating the radio, and the streets would Get Rich or Die Trying. It came out like February of that year in 2003. So Kanye dropped Through the Wire later that year, and I was like, man, I hadn't really heard of him like that personally. I heard his beats. I know he did joints for the Blueprint and a couple other underground acts in Chicago, etc. I said, yo, dude can make beats. This song was a legit hip hop song. Nice soul sample. I enjoyed the Shaka Khan twist to the song. I was like, yo, he might have something here. You know what I'm saying? So I just remember that moment when it dropped, and then it was leading up to several other singles we'll get into as we prepare for hearing his debut album. We'll talk about that as well. But I just remember hearing that song, and I was like, yo, man, that's a dope song. And then I saw the video, and I was like, man, this is like, a dream come true for aspiring artists who I had initially heard was being dissed by a lot of MCs and the record labels, etc. I was like, man, the video was dope. It showed that, he had some credibility as far as working with artists as a producer. You saw Scarface and several other guys, Talib Kweli, whoever on the video. So I was like, okay, well, he's in the mix, man. So let's see where it takes us, man. But my initial thoughts, I said, yo, man, that's a very dope single, man. What do you think about the single making you first saw it? I heard it.
When I first heard it, man, first of all, that Shaka Khan or Chaka Khan, whatever way you say, because I've heard old heads say Chaka. So I don't know. But I've always loved that record, Through the Fire. And for him to use that sample, sped up with the beat, it just had an emotion to it that was dope. And what made it even more impressive to me, where he really got my attention, was the fact that this dude had a car accident.
Yep.
His jaw was broken. His face was completely swollen. And, obviously once he was somewhat okay, his jaw was still wired. He created this record. And, the legend of Kanye West was born, which is a testament to what he's always been. Is this dude is 100% honest with who he is and his situations, and he doesn't mind sharing. So Through the Wire was like, why do we like, our favorite hip hop artists, or we call them legends? Because we can relate to them. We can relate to their humanity. And this was a dude who had a near-death situation and made a dope-ass record out of it. And it, like, I was ready. When I heard that, and I saw the video, I was like, yeah.
And you know what, too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even make it more authentic is he literally was spitting it through the wire. He had wires all in his mouth, and you could hear the way he was slurring his speech and pronouncing words and etc. It was very authentic. Another thing is, it happened in LA. He actually had the surgery in the same hospital that Biggie died in, at Cedar Medical Center, and he also spoke about that in the song. It even made it more kind of like, is this destiny? Because Biggie died, in the hospital. He was like reborn in that hospital in terms of the MC. That was the time when he took that experience and it catapulted him into being this solo artist that people took serious, because this was a very serious record. And so that was authentic within itself, man. And again, looking back at what he was going through at the time, you're making beats for Rockefeller, Jay-Z, and everyone is basically saying, yo, all right, that's cool. We've heard some of your little tracks here and there you playing in the studio while you're making our beats, but you ain't really trying to rock with you on the lyric side, man. That's cool. That's cute. You know what I'm saying? But let's drop these beats for me. You know what I'm saying? And he was ambitious. Dame eventually caught on. Talib Kweli and a couple of guys were letting him go on tour and stuff like that. And he put his own money behind Through the Wire. It ended up getting a Grammy nod, but he lost to Jay-Z at 99 Problems video. And then he won the Album of the Year for the College Dropout. So he was funding a lot of stuff and believing in himself when a lot of people died, even after Through the Wire was kind of on the radio, and then Jesus Walk ended up in the radio. And just real quick, Jesus Walking All Falls Down, Kanye was down here in North Carolina at Duke University on a little tour. And at the time, I remember speaking to Ninth Wonder, who I know grew up with, he was like, yeah, Kanye opened up for us at one show. And then when his single took off, we ended up opening up for him at this little small college tour.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And when he performed, people didn't know these songs. He was performing Through the Wire and All Falls Down and all these tracks, and nobody knew who he was. So it was kind of quiet when he was performing, but you still saw the confidence in the way he was performing. And also, an unknown John Legend at the time, he stopped his act and let John Legend do like half of his solo debut album, and it was quiet. Nobody knew who he was. And so you have this situation looking now at Kanye and John Legend, these huge stars. And I remember being there to support Little Brother and support Knife and everyone, and seeing this guy perform. And I'm like, yeah, he's cool, but you never would have foreseen this right now.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head about it feeling like destiny in a lot of respects, because that's what a lot of artists don't realize is, that's how those things play out. Now you're not getting in a car accident and then you're gonna put a dope record out. The key or the nugget of truth or the reason to be enlightened by that situation is the simple fact that he saw I guess not necessarily a loophole, because see, I don't want to make everything seem like, it's an opportunity for marketing in order to make money, but he saw an artistic tunnel to go down. He was inspired by something. He was inspired by his own accident. He was inspired by a situation where he thought he would die, and he's thinking of all these different things of, this is the hospital that Big died in, and
yep.
I'm supposed to be this, and now my career is derailed because of this. But he used that to craft something that he's probably was trying to create for the longest. You know what I'm saying? Something real, something true that could really touch people, that could really grab the attention of all the naysayers of him as a rapper. And he did that because that's what being an artist is all about. An artist is always inspired by something that may seem normal. You know what I'm saying? An artist can be inspired by watching a old woman leave her house every day and do chores and stuff like that, and an artist can find the beauty in that, or the relation in that to his own life or her own life, and put that in a record or on a canvas or on film. So I think like that's what, when people call Kanye a genius, I think that's what they're talking about as far as being an artist and being able to think on another level that's not always tied to the cool crowd or the marketing schemes or how can I make the most money. He's a deeper thinker than that, and Through the Wire was a prime example of that for sure.
Yeah, and also, if you're an aspiring artist and you're around some upper echelon MCs, you're going to be inspired as well. I mean, you're in the studio making beats for Jay-Z, but you also see Jay-Z crafting these classic tracks. You're also seeing Benny Siegel, You're seeing, Cameron. You're seeing all Freeway, even though some people might not look at him as this great MC, but he has great energy, and he is a good MC. So you're still around a lot of guys. Also, you befriended Dave Chappelle, so you're around Talib Kweli and Mos Def, and and Dead Prayers, because he had made some production for Dead Prayers also. So he's around all of these very lyrical and different styles of MCs. So that's inspiration as well, because they said that whenever Kanye was around these guys and people walk in the room, he'll just start spitting rhymes that he has. Even when people didn't want to hear it, his motivation was like, somebody's going to hear me at some point. I'm going to keep on rhyming around everyone because I believe in myself. You know what I'm saying? So I think one of his genius that people say, whatever, is just his own confidence, believing in himself. And one last thing from a personal perspective, like I said, speaking to Ninth one time about the tour, I said, man, is Kanye really like that? His words to me, and if anyone listening, you can ask Knife on Twitter, wherever. He said Kanye is really that ambitious behind closed doors when nobody's around. He really takes his music that serious. It's not a game. It's not an act for attention. He's really like that. So when you're that ambitious and when you're that focused and you're saying, I'm going to be a star. Matter of fact, he had his album name titles before the albums even came out. He believed.
Wow.
And to me, it started with Through the Wall. It's like, this is my song. I'm going to put my money behind it, and I'm going to see where this takes me. And I have to give that guy props, whether people are upset with the way his personality might have ended up being now in 2018. As we look back 15 years ago, he has a story to tell, man, and it's a true story. And look what he's become in the music industry as a result of being focused and determined and not letting anyone stop his grind.
Yeah, and like to have that as your lead single again, along with all the production credit, he really took hold of the rap game's attention for something that wasn't necessarily like original as far as him as an artist, but it was something that was missing since the days of De La Soul and Native Tongue and the Tribe Called Quest, and it was new. It wasn't something that was borrowed from that time. It just felt like an extension of those kinds of rappers with those kinds of sounds. And like College Dropout, man, we might as well get into it. When the album dropped, what did you think, man? You had Through the Wire, you had this anticipation. What did you think about College Dropout when you first heard it?
So again, the way I always do the knowledge on albums, I go to the record store. I try to keep that authentic. I've been doing that since the late 80s, early 90s. I like to go to the store. I went and I bought the album. I put it in the car. I said, all right, where do I need to go? I need to drive around for a minute so I can feel it. I put it in, man, and I listened to it honestly all the way through. With the exception of one or two songs that I'll get into that I really didn't feel, I still felt like as a total project, oh man, this is a good balance right now in hip hop, because again, 50 had the streets would get rich. Then Kanye brought the balance with the College Dropout. So now you got the hardcore street vibe in hip hop, and you do have that conscious Tribe Called Quest, Black Star, whatever. You still have that with Kanye, man. I thought it was a very good album. It won the Grammy for that year. It got 4 or 5 stars on every professional plane. I thought it was well deserved. Truthfully, I thought it was a great album, man. I thought the production was dope. I thought the guest appearances from Mos Def, Common, Talib Kweli, Jay-Z, Freeway. I mean, it was just a dope project, man. And the way it ended with that track Last Call, when he took about 7, 8, 9 minutes and really talked about his entire career up to that point, I thought that was a brilliant way to end the album. I personally, my initial rating, just real quick, for example, was a 4.5 out of 5. And to me, that's huge, because I'm a very hard critic of hip hop. That's not a secret. I don't believe in all these instant classics people talk about. I let it marinate. But man, it can't be denied what he did, man. So I would say it's right there touching the classic, man. I thought it was put together well.
Now I had a whole nother different outlook on it. Around that time, I was still living in B-more, and I wasn't hosting a hip hop show, but I was kind of like executive producer. So I was still involved with the music side and listening to a lot of it and just kind of, just staying on the edge of what's dope so the show could be dope. And again, when I heard Through the Wire, I was just ready. I was like, yo, this joint is dope. Like you said, it wasn't because I think we got too much hardcore hip hop at one point. So Kanye was really refreshing. You know what I'm saying? Like his subject matter and his honesty was really refreshing. When College Dropout came out, I ain't even gonna front, man. I liked a couple of tracks, but I wasn't feeling it. And a lot of it had to do more so with this is pre crazy social media because I think MySpace was around. But the social media we know today, I just felt like a lot of people were just taking him from the bottom and just placing him on top. And I already knew he had some ghostwriters. I already felt like, well, he's really good, but he ain't that nice to be putting him above other dudes who are lyrically superior. But that wasn't the main reason. My main reason was I wasn't feeling the concept of the album because at first I dug it as a concept of the whole College Dropout. But then when I heard some of the skits kind of mocking HBCUs and black fraternities, I had some problems with that because, obviously I attended well, not obviously, but if you don't know, I attended a HBCU in Morgan State University. And I just felt like he was muddling the message a little bit. Like, sure, you dropped out, you pursued your dreams, and you reached your goals. That is not the case for everyone. There are a number of people who are going to listen to your album and think they can do the same thing, and they're going to be working in White Castles for the rest of their life. Nothing wrong, nothing wrong with working in White Castles. I like chicken rings, but that might not be where they want to end up. You know what I'm saying? And I think he was sending a bad message and showing a lot of division, and I felt like he was maybe a little bit bitter at whatever didn't work out for him in college, which to me, based off the album, felt and sound like it had more to do with the social hierarchy than, him not being able to get good grades. It didn't sound like that was the issue. It sounded like socially he had an issue with it. He felt like he didn't fit, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? But that was the part about it where I was just like, I don't know, man, because you don't get too many other artists of different ethnic backgrounds, talking about Harvard badly or Yale, anything like that, So that was one thing. That was the one thing that kind of loomed over that album, and it still kind of does for me today. But I could not deny the production value. I could not deny the songs that were dope. Even the workout song I liked. You know what I'm saying?
I hate that song. Go ahead.
You hate that? I liked it
I
because I think I liked it because of like what you said. There was so much other hardcore hip hop. I needed this dude to be the fun guy. You know what I'm saying? And fun in a way that I could deal with. You know what I'm saying? Not too goofy. And I felt like, okay, well, it's one record and it's cool. I mean, today I probably skip it. But at the time, I thought it was fine because I thought it was different. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what, too?
Yeah.
I think that the reason why I did initially give it a 4.5 instead of 5, just real quick, is because of the skits. The skits sucked to me. So my thing was, I felt like the skits took a lot from the album. So that 0.5 will take that off. And I think that happened on Late Registration as well. That's the reason why Graduation was so good. It had no skits. You know what I'm saying? It was song, Big Brother in. You know what I mean? And College Dropout had the skits were filler to me. Along with that workout plan, I didn't like a lot, but I get it why people like it. And also, I didn't like that Breathe In joint with Ludacris. I thought that was a terrible track. Very much so a throwaway track. But I can't deny that you had like a 90s feel with Through the Wire. As I look at the singles, you had like a radio joint with slow jams with Twister and Jamie Foxx. It was creative. You can rock it in the club, you can rock it in the car. You got All Falls Down. It's kind of like a, you know what I'm saying, it's a nice track, it's conscious, what have you. Jesus Walks is a very conscious joint. That's a really old track. That's one of his first songs. He sat on that song for a long time, and he was trying to get a record deal off Jesus Walks. He's always made that known that he couldn't believe that Jesus Walks didn't get him a record deal. But Capitol and other places, they kind of turned on him. So he did have them joints. He'll turn around and have the joint Two Words with Most Def and Freeway. You know what I'm saying? So it was a very diverse album, man. And like I said, he tried to hit as many marks in hip hop as he could, even when We Don't Care. That was more of an inspirational track starting the album off. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, Spaceships was very dope. That Marvin Gaye sample on Spaceships was dope. As I look through it, Never Let Me Down with Jay-Z, dope song. Get 'Em High. Oh man, he definitely has some amazing heat on that album, man. If you take those skits off to me and take those other two tracks off, I mean, it would have been landmark to me. But again, I get why people do love it. I see what you're saying as far as kind of somewhat making a marker. I went to UNCG and A&T. I am in the fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi. You know what I'm saying? So I get all of that too. But I kind of looked past that and just thought the skits was whack. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that was more of it also. I think I didn't mind hearing one or two because it was called College Dropout. But after a while, I started to feel like, man, he really got an axe to grind. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
He really feels some kind of way to have this many skits in them all to kind of, color HBCUs with a negative, view or whatever. But again, I skip all the skits because, like, for the same reasons you said, that you can do without them, to be honest, because really the music is the part about it is dope. Like, if I was to give it out of 5, I think I would probably give it a 3.5, close to.
Oh, come on, babe.
I mean, I'm really, like, I don't like every song, but I like a lot of the songs.
So let me ask you a question then. So you're saying that you would give College Dropout 3.5 out of 5. So how do you how would you compare Through the Wire with other singles from his other albums, and how would you compare College Dropout to his other albums in his discography?
I could name 3 albums that's better than College Dropout. The second album, Registration, Graduation, and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And I, like you said, Registration kind of suffers somewhat from the same issues. But I felt like there are more songs on all 3 of those albums where I like damn near the entire album. I feel like I skip around too much with College Dropout.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like Through the Wire is on, I'm with it. You know what I'm saying? Slow Jams is on, I'm with it. Like mostly all the songs you name, for the most part, I'm with it, but I'm skipping around between the songs I don't like and the skits. And to me, I can't be skipping around like that if I'm gonna give you 4 albums. You know what I'm saying? I think if I can't say if those skits didn't exist because they're part of the package. So
that's true.
I look at it as 3.5, but going into 4 because it's not a bad album by any stretch. And I look at a 3 as being good. You know what I'm saying? With a 4 being very good into a 5 being classic or whatever, and maybe 4.5 being excellent or whatever. I can't say those things about it. I could say it's a very good album. But I, like at that time, I wasn't feeling the whole way it was put together. But then he kind of made up for that with the next 3 albums, like easy. But yeah, man, like that's the thing with Kanye though. And I didn't know this at the time. You know what I'm saying? He is a dude who wears his feelings on his sleeve. So if he felt slighted when he went to college, that's who his enemy is. On that other whack album, that's a CD cover of a CD or whatever the fuck, Jesus. He felt some kind of way about the fashion industry, so he wanted to get at them. And that's his motivation. You know what I'm saying? He needs a me against the world feeling. He needs the world to be crashing down on him. Today it's social media. He needs social media to be crashing down on him. So give me that "Make America Great" hat. Let me take this photo, get everybody riled up, paying attention to me, and then I could drop some dope music, and hopefully y'all like it.
Right.
But College Dropout, production wise, definitely Kanye West was and is one of those dudes who he knows what he's doing, man, with everything, even with College Dropout, regardless of how I may personally feel about it. That brother knew exactly what he wanted to do with that album.
Yeah, no doubt. I think he put it together as best he could, and I think it served his purpose and vision at the time. And I would say, Late Registration was an elevation as of production, and he was a better MC. Like I always say, you should be better on your second project, and he was better on Late Registration. I thought the beats were more crispy, and he had some assistance. We know that, and Graduation, I felt like he had lists because Kanye listens. I think he had heard Cat saying, "Yeah, man, your first two albums dope, man, but those skits corny." So he did Graduation with not one skit. You know what I'm saying? If you take Drunken Hot Girls off, to me, Drunken Hot Girls to me is like when Biggie and them had that Friend of Mine shit on Red to Die. I already told you I hate that song. So Drunken Hot Girls, you got Mos Def singing the hook and doing a little part on them. He didn't rap. I wish if Kanye and Most would have rapped on Drunken Hot Girls, I would have said Graduation was flawless because that's my favorite Kanye album.
Yeah,
So
me too.
yeah, so I feel like Graduation is best album. Then I might go with Late Registration or Dark Twisted. Then I go with College Dropout. So that lets you know that I feel like he has several 4.5 albums and a 5. I think Graduation is a 5. But I can see someone liking Dark Twisted better. He was nice lyrically on Dark Twisted. I kind of feel like, during that time with Watch the Throne and Dark Twisted, he was rhyming his ass off. You know what I'm saying? So I would say that. But as far as College Dropout, again, I think it worked for him. It made him the star, the rap star that he really wanted to be. He had his own College Dropout tour, and he was a certified MC at that time. Whether you think he's a strong one or not is up to you. But I felt like his dream came true because he packaged together. He had the little college drop, the little bear. He had a little theme. You know what I'm saying? He carried that theme on through for his first 3 albums. I mean, the guy was smart.
Yeah, and to add on to that, that's what I did like about it. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't necessarily the concept of being a college dropout. I just didn't like the way it felt like it was targeted towards our universities and not just college in general. For him, you know what I'm saying? But I did like how he started a certain way that dude started dressing. You know what I'm saying? So he started a trend because in hip hop prior to that, what was everybody wearing? Like basketball throwback jerseys and chains all the time and stuff. I think around that
Exactly.
time, G Unit tank tops. Like if you had a G Unit tank top on, like whatever, man. But
Right.
I think as far as like with musically creating a new trend and as far as like the way he was dressed and probably what people forget is Kanye West with that College Dropout and the way he was dressing and the type of artist he was that wasn't really a hardcore artist, he without a doubt opened the lane for Drake and J. Cole's and even Kendrick's, because at one point or another, all these dudes, when I first came upon their music, they all reminded me of Kanye.
Let
Even
me
to the
pause you. Let me say this too.
yeah.
So if anyone research hard enough on YouTube and on the internet, some of his influence was rap style and a lot of things of that nature actually come from Fonte of Little Brother.
Oh yeah, because he
And
took the whole lane. Yeah,
he
he took
took
that
that
whole
lane, and Fonte's lane ended up spawning to Kanye. Drake studied Fonte. That's why we hear So Far Gone and some of that stuff.
mm-hmm.
He took that straight from the foreign exchange. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because Drake did a couple of songs with Little Brother at that time. He got a song, Think Good Thoughts with Elzhi Fonte, produced by Knife. He got Don't You Have a Man with Little Brother with Dwella and all. So he was on that too. I say all that to say a lot of those guys, including Kanye, you know what I'm saying, was influenced by Fonte. And they was doing an interview one time with Kanye. I think he was on a little panel. And what happened was he had said, yeah, he had got some inspiration from this guy in North Carolina from this group, Little Brother. I mean, he was kind of like, I'm so large now, I don't really want to get a prop where it's deserving. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, from what I heard, it was like Fonte was kind of like, okay, cool, no doubt, it's just whatever. You know what I'm saying? But he spent some time down here in Durham when they did that track I See Now with Consequence, and he was riding Fonte in terms of like the influence was kind of there too. But on a large scale, since Kanye ended up being very famous, he took whatever influences was from several people, and the culture shifted some with him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's how these things work. Honestly, unfortunately for Little Brother, they're not like a older group that he borrowed from. They were like coming up, and I was already on Little Brother, and I remember feeling, me as a hip hop fan, I'm thinking like, oh, we got Little Brother and we got Kanye,
right?
But Kanye was kind of like, no, we gonna have Kanye up here, and Brother do them right here. And I think a lot of artists kind of take something from somebody and carry it further because of influence. It's just unfortunate when it's somebody like Little Brother, with Fonte, especially Fonte, where he influenced Drake, he influenced Kanye, but Kanye's story was the one that was on the bigger platform, so that the spotlight was bigger on what he was doing. So everything he did was being magnified as, oh, he started it. Unlike, and I'm gonna tell y'all now, I used to say this all the time on my radio show because I'm from New York City. I was doing a radio show in Baltimore. I wanted to make sure it was clear. Unlike Jay-Z acting like I made the Yankee hat more famous than no. Everybody in New York City, Yankee fan or not, was already wearing Yankee fitteds. Jay-Z just started doing what we were doing, and he was just doing it on a bigger stage. So to people who didn't know, it became a cool thing to wear a Yankee hat. Now, me, I'm a Yankees fan, so I was going to have one regardless. I always do. But it's just one of those things where, again, if you're on a bigger platform and, you have the bigger audience to hear it, they're going to associate all that shit with you. And a lot of it was because I hear more Kanye. Well, I heard more because they're all different now. But I heard more Kanye flow-wise in J. Cole, especially when I first heard Kendrick, like a old joint. Because I was just like, I don't like this because they all kind of rhyme like Kanye, and then every So Far Gone and all these other joints came out.
Let me say this real quick too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's true. I do think Kendrick and a couple of the guys did kind of sound like Kanye, but the funny thing is, if you go back, Kanye and 50 Cent, since we spoke about 50 Cent earlier in the program tonight, they both kind of got Mace flow a little bit. So a lot of people don't really understand. A lot of people don't. Exactly right. So I mean, a lot of people don't get that. At one point, as far as influence, Mace is very influential. So 50 and Ye and a lot of these guys, they from Mace family tree. And he talked about this a couple of months ago when he was battling Cameron and all that stuff like that. And people forget that. You go back and start listening to Mace flow. You know what I'm saying? You're like, well, that's little pieces. Took that flow a little bit. And then J. Cole is like the grandson of Mace because just like on False Prophet, J. Cole basically sonning Kanye in the first verse. And he's saying, basically, I look up to you. He's like my hero, dog. But you False Prophet. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's the family tree.
Yeah, and also, quick note for those who don't know, Fabulous rhymed exactly like Mace at one point.
No question.
I think when I think it's the song on the DJ Clue joint. But there's another one that's older where he's rhyming when he was the Fabulous Sport, where he's rhyming exactly like Mace. I mean, like to a T. Like, but obviously, when you hear him today, you realize at some point somebody said, "Okay, let's not do that." You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Uh, but you know what I'm saying? What do you think? You know what I'm saying? You're watching this video. How do you feel about Kanye? What did you think when you first heard Through the Wire? You know what I'm saying? Did you like it? What do you think when you first heard College Dropout? Out of 5 mics, 5 stars, or whatever it may be, what would you give that album? Is it your favorite Kanye album? What do you think about all the stuff we said? Leave your comments in the comment section below. We read the comments. We would enjoy people commenting because we know a couple of people watch, but we want to get your feedback. We want to know who's watching and what you feel about some of this stuff. But we get to the point in the show where we recommend an album from the past, recent past, or past, way back that you should listen to. For me, this week, it's the GZA, the Genius, not the one you're thinking about, but it's the Pro Tools album, released in 2008. When this album first came out, I completely slept on it. Quick story about me and GZA as far as my history as a fan. Liquid Swords, hands down, obviously had it day one. Beneath the Surface, I was like this on it a little bit.
I love that album, man.
I think it had a lot to do with my anticipation beat wise, because I felt like every beat on Liquid Swords is dope. I just feel like that album just flows so well. It's incredible. It's classic for me. And Beneath the Surface was like, it was dope, but I kind of felt like, I don't know, I felt like something was missing. And I can't remember what exactly it was, whether RZA didn't do enough production or whatever the case may be. So I kind of fell back a little bit on, looking for GZA releases. And I remember a friend of mine, this is in 2008, was like, "You haven't heard the GZA Pro Tools joint?" And I was like, "Nah, I haven't." He was like, "You really should check it out." And I'm telling you, its tone is one of the moments where somebody puts you onto some shit and you're like, "How did I not?" Like, I just bought it. I heard like a couple of records and I bought it. Because what this album is, essentially, is it is a Wu-Tang album through and through, from the beats to the features to the GZA being razor sharp. Everything about it feels like Into the 36 Chambers, Liquid
Wow.
Swords. You know what I'm saying? All of those albums, like when we were just eating up everything that came out from the Wu, even the affiliates. 16 tracks on here. I think the RZA did most of the production. There's features from Master Killer, RZA, of course, True Masters on here. And I like the way it also ends. You know what I'm saying? It ends with like a live performance of GZA at a show, which you would think more people would do something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's a song, but it's him performing at a show, and he's saying a lot of good shit.
You know
Just
what's funny? Yeah.
yeah.
The only other time I remember hearing something like that in the recent past is Saigon's Greatest Story Never Told. One of the last tracks on there he did live. And I just thought that was just real creative, man. So it just made me think about that just now. But I'm just check that album out, man. I don't remember Pro Tools like I remember seeing it, but I don't remember doing the knowledge to it.
Yeah, like look, I was the same way, man. Around the time I think I was still doing like YouTube videos reviewing albums, and I was reviewing all these different albums. And this one dude was like, you should do GZA Pro Tools. And I think for me, it wasn't that I didn't like the GZA anymore. It was just that, it got to the point where I felt like it wasn't for me, whatever he was making, because it didn't have the same pedigree. But then when I heard this Pro Tools joint, I was like, this is an album that's being slept on tremendously. Because if you like the GZA's rhyming, if you like what he talks about, if you like his concepts, because there's
Yeah,
plenty of that. And if you like that good old Wu-Tang RZA sound, um, it's one of them albums that I pull out and just listen to every now and again because it kind of feeds that side of hip hop for me, man. But Tone, what you got for your recommendation?
man, I'm going back to 1994. I was in
Mm.
college, and I heard this song called "Recognize the Threshold of Negative Stress." And it was like boom, 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 boom. And I was like, yo, that's kind of funky, man. I kind of like that joint. Of course, being me, I go to the record store. I lived at the record store on Tuesdays. And it was this group called the Boogie Monsters. And I was like, who the hell is what's a Boogie Monster? You know what I'm saying? Like, people working the record store was like, yo, man, that album is dope. It's called Riders of the Storm. I was like, well, can I hear a sample? Because at the time, we used to let you listen to snippets of the album. And I put it in, I listened to it. I'm like, yo, go throw that in the bag too. I'm going to go ahead and get that along with whatever else that was dope in 94. It might have been Cal or whatever. But I put it in the Walkman, and first song called Juggernauts. And I was like, yo, man, it was slick. The Boogie Monsters is a very alternative type of hip hop group. They were kind of spiritual. They had tracks on there that they was talking about like biblical stuff and just real conscious guys, man. Dope dudes. I think they're from the Bronx originally. You might have heard of Recognized Threshold and Negative Stress. They had a joint called Honey Dips in Gotham. You know what I'm saying? But my favorite track on the album is a joint called Bronx Bombers. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, go back, guys. Anyone listening, get on YouTube, put in the Boogie Monsters, put in Bronx Bombers, put in Recognize the Threshold of Negative Stress, put in Hundred Days in Gotham. They had a second album called God Sound that was also very dope as well. So check out some Boogie Monsters, man. A lot of people have really slept on them. They have some really good music.
You know what's crazy, man? I was just like you, man. Like I stayed in the record store in Brooklyn, and I remember when first of all, I was like, the name of the song is "Recognize the Thresholds of Negatives." Like this shit is a
Yeah,
sentence. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like usually songs is one word, maybe two words. This joint was a sentence, and it was kind of like, well, what the fuck are they talking about?
right.
And I just remember seeing the video was real
Yep,
trippy, and the beats with that beat was just booming, and I went straight to the record store, when I could, and I saw the album, and I'm like, yo, I'm buying this shit. This just seems like this is all me. This is all I could get into. And I ain't gonna front. When I first heard it, it wasn't hitting me. Not every song,
right,
because most of the songs you named are the songs I like.
right,
Uh, but it was, I guess I wasn't prepared for it to be that different because I
right,
kind of dug the psychedelic side of it with the single. Um, but I guess I was expecting, a little bit more tribe like, feel or whatever. But they were just different. I have the cassette right over there in a box, the original cassette I bought from back then, sitting
Me
in a
too.
box.
Yeah, I
Uh,
do too.
it was one, and I don't have every cassette I own. Some joints I sold at points in times, but I kind of always held on to that because I felt like that's an album that I think if I went back to it today, being a little bit more older and more experienced, and having a different range as far as my ear
Yep,
goes musically,
yep.
I think I'd probably love it now. You know what I'm saying?
I think
So
you would. I think you would, man, because the album was kind of before its time when it comes to subject matter. We were young in '94. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? And some of the stuff they were talking about wasn't like traditional hip hop in '94, because obviously '94 is one of those years of hip hop when you got the Nas, Biggie, Method Man, and all of this stuff like that. You got these guys, these alternative guys, talking about whatever they're talking about, and the real talk, but they actually can MC. If you listen to them songs, some of them dudes in the Boogie Monster can actually rap, man. You know what I'm saying? So it'll surprise you now with some of the subject matter, even some of the hooks and the verses and stuff like that, man. Like I went back recently and listened to it, and I'm like, man, I still like it. It still sounds fresh, man.
well, you know what's crazy, man? This is probably the first episode where you're gonna go back and listen to my recommendation, and I'm
Yeah,
gonna go back and listen to yours because that's an album that, even though I have it on cassette, is one of those joints I don't have digitally, and that's a perfect time for me to ride to work, to and from work or whatever, and just really absorb that and really go down memory lane in a lot of respects, because I haven't heard, except for Recognize the Thresholds of Negative Stress, I haven't really heard the album since back then. So it'd be great to go
Let me,
down
yeah,
memory lane.
let me know what you think, bro. And it's also a song. One more time, just real quick. There's a song when they're talking about music, music appreciation. When we fit, yo,
Oh, I
any
remember.
listeners, go to YouTube and put in Boogie Monsters music appreciation. They're talking about music like a female, kind of like Common, and I used to love her. It's only
Yeah.
about 2.5 minutes. It's a beautiful beat, lyrics. It feels good. It feels right. It makes you appreciate music, just like the name of the song, man. So yeah, anyone listening or watching, check out Music Appreciation by the Boogie Monsters, man, on YouTube. Take a listen, man. Put a comment, man. Let us know what you think about the recommendations. Also,
All right. Well, man, you heard it. That's going to do it for us for this week on That Time in Hip Hop podcast. Subscribe to the B-Roll Network for more. We got more. We got, the gun is loaded, man. We got a whole bunch of shows ready for y'all, you know what I'm saying? But we need to hear from y'all. So leave your comments in the comment section about anything we mentioned today, about your recommendation to us to listen to or to go back and listen to. Also know that you can get a lot of dope information and articles from intothedome.com. That's ENTERDADOME.com. You can check out a lot of the articles that are there. And also you can listen to my podcast, which is a weekly news podcast called Hip Hop Now Podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, along with an audio version of this podcast. All of that will be in the description, but what you have to do is support hip hop, support the preservation of hip hop. That's what we doing. You subscribing, you sharing this podcast lets us know that people still care about this music, about this culture, and it keeps us going as fans of the music. So on behalf of myself, Vegas, and the homie Tone, until next time, y'all, go out and support hip hop. Peace.
peace.
Drop it on the random.